right, well, let's jump straight into episode 4 of our pod. Everybody, we have a wonderful guest here. Let me just introduce this fine specimen of a man here. This man right here is a good friend, first and foremost, a man of faith. But he's also a freak of nature. And why do I say that? Not just because he's only 4% body fat. He is a 12-time All-American track athlete. He's a Native American. He's a physicist. And he's also a business owner. And we'll touch into all of the cool stuff that he does today. But we have the pleasure of hosting our boy, Rob Ironshell. Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, and we'll start off for someone meeting you for the first time. Who is Rob really? You don't have to give like a resume version, but who are you?
Rob is a creator that grounds people. I would say that's the good definition of me.
That's the overview.
Yeah.
And you have your own business.
Yes.
Olympus Earthwear. Where essentially you have grounding shoes.
Yes.
And I would love just to start to get into the podcast to understand how you got into grounding, how it's changed your life, and how it can change other people's lives.
Yeah, goes back to what Daniel said with the sprinting and all that. So I first found out about grounding. I was getting injured a lot post-collegiately because I was still competing after I left school. And just a lot of hamstring injuries, a lot of foot injuries, a lot of groin injuries. And I was doing everything I possibly could to prevent myself from getting injured all the time. And I feel like I tried everything. And then I was driving home from training one day. I'm pretty sure I was hurt that day. And I was listening to this podcast with Clint Ober. And a lot of people who are familiar with grounding know who Clint Ober is. He's kind of this whole pioneer in the space of grounding. And I was listening to him talk, and I was very, very skeptical when I was listening to him talk. So I was like, I don't know if all these things are going to happen if I go outside and just take my shoes off. Like these things that he's saying specifically are going to happen. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to lose anything by trying. Just go, spend 20 minutes a day barefoot, no shoes. So I would spend my lunch breaks grounded. I bought a grounding sheet. I'd sleep grounded. I would take my spikes off in between reps during my training sessions. And I noticed immediately how much better I felt, how much better I was sleeping. I told you last night I didn't get very good sleep. I slept on my couch. My couch isn't grounded. My bed is grounded, but my couch isn't grounded. I didn't get good sleep last night. But yeah, I noticed immediately how much better I was sleeping. And in my workouts are they're very taxing. And so when I leave a session, I'm usually like, I cannot do anything the next day. And I noticed when I started implementing this practice, I was like, I can come back. I can do this the next day. Like I feel good. I don't feel as broken down. And there's a really good physiological reason for that. But those are the big things I noticed to begin with. And so I was like, okay, there's definitely something here. And so I started digging into the research more. And I realized that the implications go far beyond that performance aspect of it. And I kind of became obsessed, and I started making these long format YouTube videos for people, basically compiling the research and putting it out there for people. And been doing that for about 6 years. Wow. Going on 6 years now.
So take us through your lifestyle then. How has this shifted your lifestyle? So you said you sleep grounded.
Yes.
I have no idea what that means, to be completely honest. So like, what has shifted in your life, your daily habits, to make it where that's like your focus now?
To where grounding is the focus?
And what does sleeping grounded look like?
So the easiest way to approach this would probably be to define grounding for people. So what grounding means is it means being at the same electrical potential as the earth outside. And so the earth maintains a slight negative charge due to various atmospheric and cosmological phenomena. They contribute to the earth's negative charge. And so humans have evolved to be in contact with that surface charge throughout their entire time here on the earth. And it's only in the last 100 years that we came about with the rubber-soled shoes. And so that's insulated us from that charge. And so I firmly believe that that's a big reason that we're dealing with so many chronic non-communicative diseases today. And that's what's killing most people worldwide. It's heart disease, it's cancer, it's neurodegenerative diseases, it's diabetes, it's all these things. But a lot of what all these things have in common is something called oxidative stress, and that's where grounding comes into the picture. We can talk about that later if you want to. But yeah, and so what grounding is being at the same electrical potential as the earth, and that could be done outside, it could be done inside with things like grounding sheets and grounding mats. And so those are basically conductive materials that connect to the building's electrical infrastructure, a ground wire that goes outside of the building. And I can show you what I mean if I had a multimeter here, how the voltage on your body will drop when you go outside if you're wearing the grounding shoes, or if you're inside on a grounding mat, or if you're just outside barefoot. So it's a really cool process. It's a very easy process, and so that's why it's not a big deal to implement into my life, and it shouldn't be a big deal for anybody else to implement it in their life. It's really free. If you want to invest in a grounding mat, like $30, and that's a completely transformative way to, totally just change your life.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? For those who don't know, Rob, what was your record again? Your 400 meter, was it 47?
46.63 is my best 400.
Yeah, and that was in college or now?
That was post collegiately. Yep.
That's crazy because you're a better athlete now.
Yes.
You're 31 now, right?
31 now. Yeah.
Than you were when you were in college.
20. Yeah, and I think a big part of that is just like I know my body much more now, and I know what works for me, and I know the type of stimulus I need to run fast times and to be competitive. And so, when you're in college, you have a coach that's working with 60 athletes, and so they can't tailor things to you specifically. And so when I left, I was like, okay, I'm going to tailor all this specifically to me, what works for me, and voila, it's simple.
I mean, that's proof right there that grounding helps, because most people, when they're 7-8 years past their running days and track, they're not faster or
yeah. So. And it's really interesting with sprinting and professional sprinters these days is that they're getting older and older, and so they'll be up until their late 30s still being competitive as sprinters, and especially distance runners too. You can maintain kind of the distance shape for into your 40s, I think. But I think that says a lot about how far we've come as far as recovery modalities and all that. But at the end of the day, grounding is the only thing that has been shown to speed up recovery. Not only speed up recovery, but prevent the breakdown of the body when you're actually training grounded. It's the only thing that's been known to do it. And so that's a very, very cool thing that people are usually interested in when I tell them about how grounding has impacted my training specifically. It's like my body isn't breaking down as much. I could tell you why, but that's a big reason. So
yeah, for those people, I'm just curious. So you mentioned grounding is like becoming a neutral state with the electrical currents from your own body and the earth. How does that actually affect your body though? Like, does it affect your blood? Like, does it open up circulate? How does that actually help?
So I'd say there's a couple notable things here. One is white blood cell counts. And so after you train, you're going to have an increased white blood cell count because your body's breaking down. It's going through inflammation. In order to repair itself, it has to go through that inflammation. And so what they found in people that are training grounded and when they're recovering grounded is that there's reduced white blood cell counts in these people. And so that essentially means that there's this sort of blunted immune response when you're training grounded, when you're recovering grounded. And then on top of that, there's been some research in blood urea too, which is basically showing that protein amino acid catabolism in the body isn't as severe in people that are grounding. And so that's pretty huge right there as well. But all that essentially points to your body isn't breaking down as much when you're grounded. And you could make an argument against that and say that, well, your body is supposed to break down when you're training. That's how you get stronger. It's how your body grows. And so my defense against that is that how we train today and how we go about our ways with our training as far as like being insulated, it introduces excessive inflammation into our body, and our body can't recover optimally that way. And so this is the natural way you're supposed to be training on the earth is grounded. And so I think that's why I called it the grounded athlete. And that was the initial name for my business, and it still is the name for my business. Olympus Earthwear is this umbrella underneath, but I called it the grounded athlete, not necessarily to point to me. It's just because I thought everybody was an athlete. And I thought everybody could be an athlete if they nurtured, if they nurtured their body and they figured out what works for them as far as their training and their recovery and everything. And everybody has that innate ability inside them, I think. So hopefully that answered your question.
So someone being 4% body fat now, Rob, and you're just an absolute specimen of an athlete in general, what would you give to the audience as tips, and honestly for myself too, in terms of what's optimal for training and what's optimal for recovery?
As far as just in general or with grounding?
As far as progression, grounding, what is optimal for your body to make it sustainable for the long term?
Sure. And that's such a tricky question because everybody is just involved with different things and they have different goals. That's difficult to answer, man, because I can't, my answer would be different for all three of you, depending on your training goals.
Let me ask you this, and for you then, what's important to you in your training regimen? Like, how do you want to optimize your body? Because you're right. There's other people who do different type of workouts, long distance running, calisthenics. There's like so many different ways to work out. But like for you, what's important to you?
So for me specifically, being a power athlete and sprinting, and I really have to take care of my nervous system. And so how I coordinate my lifting in conjunction with my sprinting, and then balancing like jujitsu with that, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of coordination. And I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. And you spoke on like the low body fat percentage. That's actually an issue for me. Like it's too low. And so that speaks to just my inability to just consume enough calories to sustain myself. And so I've actually just been consuming like tubs of peanut butter to get the calories that I need.
I wish I had that issue.
Yeah, I've been doing like 9 scoops of peanut butter a day, and that's like 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day.
Sheesh.
I feel it in my stomach too. I had some this morning. I mean, so how my week is set up right now, Monday is a speed endurance day, so something like 5x150, 5-minute break at like 80-90%. I'll go here after, and I'll do something heavy because my body will be primed and ready to go. And so I'll do like squat, power snatch, or something like that. And then Tuesday we do high rocks together. That's I consider that kind of my circuit training and my cardio, because I don't do a lot of cardio. I think jiu-jitsu in its own way is kind of cardio, but it's not the cardio that I need. And high rocks hits that a lot with Kyle, and Kyle really knows how to push us.
Shout out to the Sluganator.
Shout out to Mr. Sluga, man.
But and then Tuesday's high rocks, Wednesday is kind of a yoga, just relax, chill out day. Sometimes I'll throw in jiu-jitsu on that day. Thursday's another sprint day. It's usually like top end mechanics, wickets, something like that, and then another Olympic lift variation like power clean, power snatch, split squat, deadlift, very low reps, so like sets of 3 to 5, 3 or 4 sets of that. And then I've had to learn. For me, it's much more difficult to step back than to step forward, if that makes sense. It's easy for me to overdo it. And so what's harder for me is to just say, okay, that's enough. That's enough stimulus for today. And I think a lot of people struggle with that at this gym. Everybody wants to just go. And that's how you get injured. And that's how, it's not the way to figure your body out. And so for me, I'm a big minimal effective dose guy these days. And so like I know the rep that hits just right at a session. I'm just like, and it's tough too, because like if I'm on like a Monday, I'm doing like 5x150. If I hit that, that fourth 150 and it's way faster than it needs to be and it feels good, it almost feels too good, I'm just like, okay, I want to hit this next one even harder. Then I have to like fight that and be like, okay, like that was much faster than I needed to be. I can shut it down here and just and be okay, because it's all about being able to show up the next day,
right?
And a lot of people forget about that next day. You need to be able to show up that next day. They want to give their all on that one day, and it's a very difficult dynamic to navigate through in your head, especially if you have ego at times, which I do a lot. And so
don't we all?
Yeah,
that's what me and Rick. Remember Ricky? We have a run club, and then most people only run 4 to 5 miles.
And then we were like, let's do 10.
Now, Ricky, you were like, let's take this other pathway. And I was like, all right, sure. We ended up running like 10 miles.
Nice.
I couldn't walk.
How'd you feel the next day?
Broken.
It's like our egos were like,
our
I was like,
ego said
I've
yes.
never ran 10 miles in my life, but let's do it. And regret that, because I think I did get injured.
You did get injured.
I was injured.
Yeah. I want to preface this next question and relate it back to what we talked about last week. And kind of widen the question that you said and categorize it as not just the audience, right? Not just this person, but people looking to gain in testosterone. We talked about this last week. Pretty much the things in this world that are lowering people's testosterone. Water making frogs gay. Social media.
Pornography,
right?
Yeah.
All these different things. Polyester. Food. And looking at you could just tell you have high testosterone. The way you carry yourself, whatever it is. I think that's one thing that people can look at you and they can tell immediately. How could the general population, a male looking to increase their testosterone, well, let me ask it this way. Is grounding a prerequisite to masculinity?
It would be difficult for me to lay out the physiology of that for you. All I know is that there are endocrine changes that happen in the body when you're grounded. You know, when someone asks me if I think grounding will help with this, I usually say yes, because again, this is the natural state of your body. And if your body isn't maintained in this state, nothing's going to work right. Like how your hormones are performing, how your nervous system's performing, how your cardiovascular system's performing, how your immune system's performing. None of this is going to work optimally if you're not grounded, if you're not maintaining that electrical homeostasis. And so, yes, I do think grounding is a basis for allowing your hormones to operate optimally. And so I would say yes to that. Can't give you the exact physiology with that because there's no research behind it. But I don't think you need research for something like that. It kind of seems pretty common sense. Yeah, and doing that along with a lot of the things that you mentioned earlier, like what are you putting in your body? Are you training regularly, or like are you constantly watching pornography? Are you constantly giving your body this fake dopamine hit every day? All these things contribute so heavily to people and this epidemic of low testosterone. And so, yeah, I do pride myself on that a lot, on emanating vitality. And to what you said, you can see it in people. You can see you can see like the energy that they give off. Is this person, do they hold themselves do they have a good stature about them? And do they have I believe the popular word now is viril. Viril is kind of this alternative word for like vitality and stuff. And so, yeah, you can definitely see it and you can sense it in people. But I do appreciate you saying that.
and Daniel, I want to go to you because I think it's a natural segue to now talk about semen retention.
Yeah.
You've been doing multiple fasts. You've just came off another 120-ish hour fast. And that's fasting from the wants and the desires of the flesh, whether that be food, pornography. And I think you have a good personal experience to talk about how you feel when you're able to abstain from these things.
So this was my third 120-hour fast roughly I've done in my life. So I just finished a 120-hour fast last week, and this time around was more spiritual, but the first time I did it was more so because I heard that if you do it, you go through autophagy, your cells regenerate itself, kills off bad cells, your chance of getting cancer is like reduced by like 67%. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do it for health reasons. And so the first time I did it was really helpful. I did it, lost weight, felt really good. Also broke through a lot of like my limiting beliefs of like, can I actually do this? And so like once I did it the first time, I was like, I can do this. My mind's capable of not eating for 5 days. Second time I did it was more so for just my relationship with God. I was like, all right, this time I'm going to do it just to get closer to God, to break off addiction and temptations, and to really challenge myself in my discipline and die to my flesh. That was amazing. God broke through in such an incredible way. That was 2.5 months ago. And then this third time around was more so like calling and purpose of like, all right, God, like you've restored me. I feel really close to you. There's a lot of addictions you broke off. Like, please show me kind of the next thing you want me to focus on in my life. And during that time, the third time, people would tell me like, Daniel, like something's different about you. Like your energy's different. You seem more calm, relaxed, more confident, more present. And it was true. And as I was, like this third time around, just, we talked about semen retention, like not giving your life force away. So like not doing, like keeping that inside and fasting and honestly grounding. Like I actually own a pair of grounding shoes from Rob, and then they've been really cool because like literally the first day I got it, Rob, that night when I slept, I was like, Rob, I had the most deepest, slowest sleep. Like the sleep felt really like slow. Like I really enjoyed it. It's like when you eat a nice medium rare steak and you really enjoy that flavor, you enjoy it, you just don't swallow it. You're really present with that steak. That's how sleep felt. I was like, oh, I just really feel like I'm really sleeping. Like this is cool. Because some days you wake up, you're like groggy and tired. You're like, dude, I barely slept. But
that's like me every day.
But like, yeah, when I grounded that first day, I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that sleep.
Yeah, it was, it was really nice to hear you say that. But I mean, I wasn't surprised because I've gotten like thousands of messages from people that are just like, my sleep is so much better now. And then a lot of people are just like, oh, my dreams are much more vivid now as well. And so there's a lot of things. Yeah, it's very cool. And I know that you mentioned that as well. I did. So, and that's like usually the number one thing I tell people to look for. It's like, what am I supposed to notice? Like when I start doing this, one is, well, you're supposed to, you're not supposed to. You feel a lot calmer when you're grounded. And there's some cool nervous system benefits that go along with that. But that's the number one thing I tell people to look for is like, how's your sleeping? Are you sleeping better? Like that's the number one thing right there, because that's going to affect everything. If you're not sleeping good, like your body's going to fall apart.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. One of the other things that really stood out to me was my focus on reading energy, like other people's energy. Because I used to not do that. Like I used to just kind of like be like, if you're distracted by food and all these other things in life, you don't really. For me, I wasn't aware of my energy and other people's energy. And as I was in that fasted, grounded, spiritual state of like calm and just focus, like I can read other people's energy really well. It's like, am I getting good vibes, or I guess the electrical currents? Because like, I don't know if there are connections to the state of consciousness and like electrical currents and energy. Like, someone who's more patient, kind, and loving operates at a different frequency, I guess. Like,
sure.
I don't know. I just could feel myself, I don't know, like being more in tune with other people.
Yeah.
Is that common?
I think there is something to be said about your body becoming more receptive to other people's energy once you are in that practice. You can pick up on it's kind of like you can see through people once you get to a certain point in it.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, and that's what that's what a lot of men report. And so it's just this substance that literally creates life. If you let it build up, you let it circulate throughout your body. It's like your body becomes this antenna that can just pick up on everything around it. And it's weird because I come from a physics background, and naturally I don't like metaphysics. Like it's not really like, I like things that are falsifiable, and something like this isn't really falsifiable outside of the millions of anecdotal reports you get from various men that practice it. But there is something about doing this that aligns you with your true being. It aligns you with your true being, and aligns you with God. And it's kind of like the universe is conspiring for you once you start living in that alignment. Because I've lived that part of my life where I'm just like, I'm not in alignment. I'm constantly chasing girls. I'm constantly chasing these cheap dopamine hits. And it was like things were just falling apart. I was like, why do I feel like I have such bad luck right now? I feel like nothing's going well. And then once I started consistently practicing this, it's like things are working out. Things are finding me. People are finding me. People are reaching out to me. So it's very, very interesting. And I've tried and put some logic behind it and some facts behind it. And I just like, I can't, because that's the big thing with physics is like, you can keep asking why in science, and science is really good at answering how, but it's not good at answering why. And you can keep following those questions up with why, and you're never going to get the answer. And so, I think it's in that's why physics hasn't really made me stray from God. If anything, it's made me closer, because I'm just like, oh, I can kind of see how things are being put together and things are working together, but I don't know why, and that's okay, because I don't think humans are meant to know why. I don't think our consciousness, our mind is meant to comprehend all of these different workings. And if it did, we'd probably go insane. So
I think that's like the difference between mind, body, and spirit, right? Things we can see, things we can feel, things that our gut just intuitively kind of understands. And I think that's kind of the part that we don't talk about enough.
Yes.
Yeah. I also really like, Rob, how you just said that even physics, like you being so smart and knowing so much about physics, has not made you stray away from God, right, but it made you closer to God. Yes. But I feel like there's a stigma, especially by everybody, that science and religion can't coexist. And not necessarily religion, but your belief in a higher power. Can you give us a bit on maybe where that disconnect is for people, and why, for one, you have felt like physics has made you closer to God and not further away from God?
Well, I'd say a big part of the answer is in what I'd said earlier, is like all these different branches of science, you're figuring out how things work, but eventually you're going to get to a point. I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's just like, at the bottom of the cup of natural sciences, you will find God, because eventually you're going to get to a point where you can't answer these questions anymore. You can't figure out why. And again, I don't think humans are meant to know why. And it is a stigma, because a lot of people that I've talked to, they're just like, oh, you're really into all this physics stuff, but you still believe in God. Like, what's the deal there? And it's just like, well, framing it how I just framed it, I don't think a lot of people have really done that in their head. They're so focused on kind of their little niche area in science on figuring out how things work exactly, and they think that when they figure out how things work, they're going to be able to figure out why it works, or why it's in place that way, or why these laws are all happening this certain way. But you're never going to get that answer. And to this day, we don't have those answers especially in physics. Like there's this big kind of problem with uniting Einstein's gravity with quantum theory, and that's the biggest issue right now in physics. But there is a huge stigma, and it's really sad, because a lot of the biggest, most influential physicists in history were devout Christians. Newton, Max Planck, all these Max Born. All these physicists were very much, devout people of faith. And so, if it didn't deter these people that literally created these theories that a lot of our everyday life hinges on, I think there's something to be said about that.
I've never heard that, but that's amazing. Mm-hmm. I think one of the first conversations I ever had with you, Rob, we were doing the High Rocks workout, and I saw the cross on your chest, right? You had your shirt off. I saw the cross. And I also watched your lectures. I'm like, bro, I love your lectures. Like the way you can spit game and break something down, and how you can define e-girls via entropy. It's absolutely amazing, bro. And I absolutely loved it. And one of the things I asked you was, like, how do you believe, or like, why are you a Christian if, you're so far into science? And it made me think back to my journey, where when I was going through, obviously not the education that you had, but when I was going through college, I had a hard time believing in God, because I was like, I think evolution exists. And it was like put into my mind where I was like, I believe this. But now I'm like, I believe in God. Now I have a hard time believing evolution exists, where it's like one can't coexist with the other. But it's interesting how you said, like, you have this higher level perspective where it's like, okay, they actually can meet. And I think it takes a special type of person to be able to do that. But also a smarter type of person, because the way now that you're bringing up these geniuses in the past that have the ability to comprehend something so minute and so niche in science, yet look at the bigger picture, it's absolutely amazing. And I think it goes back to what we talked about last time. Is there an indoctrination factor where through school we're taught to believe X, Y, and Z, so we can rule out everything else on the side? Do you see any difference in your upbringing that has got you to a point where you haven't been indoctrinated by this system that we've all been put into?
I considered myself one of the annoying kids when I was in school. I was constantly like being a sort of a contrarian, just not necessarily for the fun of it, but because, like, curiosity. Why does it have to be this way? Like, why are things formulated this way? Why do we have to believe it this specific way? And I think a lot of what you just said comes back to mindset, and the epidemic that is present in modern academia shows evidence of closed-mindedness. And I think all of this just comes back to being more open-minded about things. Things don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive, particularly the religion and the science aspect. But I can't speak on the evolution aspect of things. I'm not a biologist. I didn't study that or anything. So, but it's a very interesting closed-mindedness that I find in a lot of highly educated people, and it's really sad. But hopefully in the future, things will start to shift a little bit. And so, but that's really what draws me to, you know, other people that are doing really cool things in particularly areas of science where they're able to, you know, do their thing and they're able to do it really well and understand it really well at a very high level. But they're also able to step back and just be like, well, this might not be like how things really are. Like there might be something else at work here. And so I think just being able to humble yourself and step back a little bit and be like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna find the exact answers here or why, but I'm gonna do my best and try and figure out, you know, how things are coming together here. And so just a little shift in mindset, I think, can take us a long way as far as progressing our understanding of how this whole reality works.
And we said that on our last podcast too, of you have to be humble enough to let your ego to go, that you are not in control of everything and you don't know everything. And you also can't explain everything.
Yes.
In terms of faith, Rob, since that is like the whole premise of why we started this podcast, because what we want to do is push, if there's anything that anybody gets from this podcast, is Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. And that is the one truth that we all three of us collectively come back to every single time with every single topic. What made you, as you learned more about the physical world and more about the laws of physics, what made you not stray away from that, away from God, and what kept you feeling like God is still a priority and number one?
You know, I think a big part of that was this mindset that I had laid out for you guys earlier. It's just like, I can learn all these different things. I can learn how quantum field theory works, and you know how quantum mechanics affects, you know, things at a subatomic level, and classical mechanics, statistical mechanics. At the end of the day, these are all theories. They all deal in probabilities. At some at a higher level of probability than others, but essentially probabilities. You're not going to know exactly. You're not going to know with certainty anything. And so that was and that's something that I learned very early on, that I see the world as this average of things. I don't see the world as this certainty of things, and I never will see things with certainty in this reality that I've been blessed with. And that's kept me grounded in the fact that no matter how much I learn, and even, you know, it can go one or two ways. The more you learn about, you know, how the world works, you can take this one path and you can be like, I know a lot. Like, I think I got this thing figured out. Or you can take this other path and be like, I know a lot. And now I feel even more dumb because there's so much I don't know. And so I would hope that more people take this other path and sort of humble themselves and be like, okay, I'm never gonna know, you know, I'm never gonna know why all these things are put in the way that they're put, and why these laws are set in motion the way they're set in motion. And but yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. I don't know if I answered it fully.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And follow-up question to that, because I say a similar thing. I don't really believe anything of the world is true, especially like everything that we were taught as a kid. It made me question literally everything. So for me, there's one truth that I have is Jesus is real. Jesus died for our sins. Are there any principles that you take as absolute truth, because you said you don't take anything that we see in this reality as truth?
Well, I think your spirit isn't necessarily this reality. It's something much more expansive than just what I can see in my field of view, what I can sense. It's something that exists outside of this dimension, and so I consider that a bit separate than how I would say I perceive the material world, the physical world. I'm seeing this average of just averages, probabilities. But with that, I would say that this person who was made perfectly and saw me for everything that I could possibly be, all my dirtiness, all my disgustingness, and still chose to give himself for me so that I could be with him. To me, that is the most beautiful story ever told. And it's even more beautiful because it's not a story. This is truth. This is truth. And I know that in my heart. I know that in my mind. I know that in my spirit. And it was something very difficult to reconcile because I came from a completely different culture. I came from Native American culture, and the whole belief system is just, it's much different. And so I always struggled with that growing up because I felt like how my family perceived that was me rejecting them in a way. It's like, oh, our ways aren't good enough for you, so you're choosing this other way. I'm just like, no, this feels more true to me. I feel something inside me as far as peace and love and truth to an extent with this particular belief than I do with any other thing in life. And I think once you feel something like that in life, whatever it may be, spirituality, with a person, with something that you love doing, you have to hang on to those things because a lot of people don't get those things in life. Sometimes it never comes at all, those types of feelings. And so when you get them, hold on tight to them. Don't hold on too tight, but hold on tight to them.
It's beautiful.
Amen.
It's beautiful. We just had a conversation about that where you have to hold on to those things because truly some people never find it.
Yeah.
And quick question, were you a black sheep of your family?
What does that mean?
Were you
like an outcast?
Yeah, the outcast of your family. Were you, everyone went this way and you saw them and you went this way?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that on paper, it seemed like I was doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing that the rest of my family was not, because a lot of my family ended up in like gangs and stuff, and a lot of violent activities. I had cousins that ended up shot and stabbed and stuff.
Wow.
And me wanting to be cool, I wanted to be just like them.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
like, if my mom didn't take me off the reservation, like I probably would have been doing the same thing that they were doing and ended up in trouble with cops or ended up shot or something, just because I wanted to be cool and be part of a gang and do cool stuff and get jumped in and all that. And so I'm very thankful that my mom kind of removed me from that environment and took me to this small place in Iowa where I went to middle school and high school and eventually college. But yeah, it was quite the journey going from that to this now with the new faith that I have. And I came to Christianity when I was 15 years old, when I was a sophomore in high school. My buddy drugged me along to this after school program. I think it was called FCA. It's like Fellowship of Christian Athletes or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is great. Like, this is awesome. Like, I feel good doing this. I love the community. I love this story that's being told. And it's just, to me, even back then, I was like, this is the most beautiful story ever told. There's no book, there's no movie you'll ever come across that's as moving as this whole story with Jesus.
That's amazing. Yeah. And my follow-up question to that was, you going from, I don't know what Native Americans believe, if they believe in one God, if they're
it's multiple gods.
Multiple gods.
With ours, it's one God. It's
okay.
Tungashla.
And so, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And you also believing in this world of averages where nothing is absolute. Mm-hmm. And you touched on it where the story of Jesus, the gospel, it brought you peace, purpose, and passion that kind of surpasses our understanding. Mm-hmm. Was there any moment in time, call it a testimony, where it turned from theoretical to actually absolute? Or was it just that emotional feeling that you had? Sure,
there was the emotional aspect of it, feeling it intensely, but also through experiences walking in it. Mm-hmm. Because everybody goes through very difficult times in their life. Mm-hmm. And for me, there were multiple times, numerous times in my life where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd be super depressed, super like suicidal. And I think if I didn't have this anchor in my life, this rock in my life that was Christianity, that was Jesus, I don't know where I would be today. And I still experience that up until this day. There are points where I'm just like, wow, I would be an absolute mess if this was not in my life, if I didn't have this anchoring me. Right. And to me, that says a lot about how it has maintained me. It has maintained my momentum forward. It has allowed me to push forward. Because without it, it's nice to have energy, but if the energy isn't directed, it's going to go everywhere. Yeah. And I feel like that's what Christianity has done for me, has directed my energy forward. not left, not right, not backward, forward. And to me, like that's where I feel like Christianity is really solidified in me, and just having that sense of direction, that sense of purpose. And yeah, that's what I think.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. I think I kind of want to go back to this point about you bringing up the black sheep, Eric, because Rob, that almost kind of reminded me of Eric and I.
Yeah.
It was like you were telling the story almost exactly how I would tell the story of our life, which is kind of crazy. Like me and Eric are the black sheep of our family, absolutely, where we are the outcasts. We are the ones who wanted to do something differently. Our parents moved us from Oakland, California, which was at the time one of the most dangerous cities in the country, to
middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And so you going to the middle of nowhere, Iowa. We went to the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. You were the black sheep. It was like, it really reminded me of like, hey, this is like kind of like our lives, and it allowed us to do something differently. And then you said you felt like you were diverting away from what your family wanted, and they all went this way, but you felt like there was something that was calling you this way, that this is what you should be doing. And similar to us, like our family took one way, and then me and Eric were like, we feel like we have to go this way. And now we're so different from our family. Talk us about what that's done for you, because like for us, I know it feels like a blessing and a curse, where we are so blessed to have these desires where we want to just push forward.
Yeah, but maybe you don't have that familial relationship for us personally.
Yeah, for us personally.
We're missing like a whole aspect of life. And sometimes it does feel like you're alone, you know, but luckily we have each other.
Yeah. Are you guys the only, like...
We have half brothers, but
half-brothers.
We're not super close with them. It's really just been us two.
So like for you, what was that experience like? What has that done to you, and how has that shifted you and molded you into who you are now?
For me, it's sometimes I don't feel the best about it, because it's like I'm going off and I'm doing these things in my new faith and with my business and all these things, but sometimes I feel like because I did things this way, it made people look at me a certain way. Like, oh, you in a sense kind of like rejected this aspect of your family and of your upbringing. And I always felt a little resented in a way, especially, you know, sometimes from my sisters, because I just felt like I created really big shoes to fill. And I never wanted them to feel that way. It's like, I was just like, this is my path and this is what I'm going to do. And so I struggle with that aspect and that mentality as well. Like, I don't want people to think like they need, in my family, that they need to do the things that I'm doing to live a fulfilling, happy life. But I always had that in the back of my head, just like navigating that particular negative mentality. And because, you know, they didn't really do the things that I did. They kind of went the typical path that every other one of my family members did. They kind of stayed in the same place, maintained a job that they didn't like or enjoy, and sort of just was coasting through life, not really having a purpose or anything. And they have their kids and stuff, and that's its own purpose. But just outside of that, goals and dreams that were never sought and reached for. And I reached for mine, and I always felt, you know, that this created some resentment in other people, and I felt like I could feel it sometimes, and that always sucked. But it is what it is. You can't please everybody, and you have to do what's best for you. And it was a very difficult decision to actually come here to Austin, because that was kind of the ultimate, like, I'm leaving, like I'm going to do my own thing. And I was very much family oriented, and I was around my family a lot, and I would see them a lot, and now I hardly see them at all. And so but I mean, you can't stay in the nest your whole life. You have to go out and you have to live your life and have experiences. And so, and I think we all felt that calling here. And so, and that's led us to pretty significant things in our life and starting our own things. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't speak on it either, but I feel like there's something so powerful about you leaving home and you getting out of your comfort zone. And that's one thing that we've said on the podcast before, is we encourage people to get out of your hometown. Yeah. How has this move to Austin been for you?
It's been good. You know, I worked so much the first few months that I was here that I didn't really get to enjoy it. Like, I was just training and I was working the whole time. And then I left to Poland for a month. And so I was literally here for like 3-4 months, and then I left to Poland for a month. And and then I'm leaving again too. So, but back to Poland, yeah. And it's been good though, because the amount of people I've met here within a month, within 2 months, would have been more than I would have met in an entire year, maybe 2 years back in Iowa. I didn't have anybody to, bounce things off of it, or anybody that could really like relate to me and like what I was trying to do. But here it's like every other day you run into somebody that's creating something, and they tell you their particular path and how they're going about what they're doing, and it's just like, oh, that's really interesting, and it's a very inspiring place to be. I don't know if Austin's the place for me long term, but I think for now it's a very conducive place for wanting to build things, and that's how I see Austin. Traffic is bullshit. I know that
so
much.
Dude, traffic is bullshit. Is so damn annoying.
Food's okay. You're going to spend probably $50 minimum wherever you go for not even necessarily good food. And so, I've heard this multiple times, and you guys might disagree, but it's just like Austin, makes food for drunk college kids mostly, and it caters to that mostly. That's
literally what it is. That's literally what it is.
But as far as this community here, collective, this has been super, super awesome. I'm out in the hills, and so I don't really have to deal with like the city life or anything, and so I'm literally like embedded in a hiking trail, which is awesome.
Nice.
It's nice and quiet out there, and I can go to the city whenever I want. And the only thing I miss about Iowa is just open highways, because my car is just like that's its own therapy.
Robin is Hellcat.
Yeah, I love to just rip that thing out on the highway, and it's tough out here when there's a car every 20 feet in front of you and back of you, and with traffic and everything here. So that's been interesting to change from. So
yeah, I think a great way to kind of summarize one of the main points that I got from just this conversation is that we're all given, I don't want to call it favor, because I think God sees everybody and gives them, a desire in their hearts to pursue something greater in life.
Right.
But we all, I think as men, we have that desire, but we're willing to take that leap of faith and like get uncomfortable to pursue our own destiny. What does God have for us? I want to step into that road that might be lonely, that road where people are often scared to go on. But we decided that we had the courage to take that risk, whether it's go live out on your own or go for that business idea like you started. But it's like that desire to like move forward. I don't know all the answers. I don't have it all figured out, but like that mindset is like, I'm going to move forward, trust God, and that he's going to ultimately provide. And like, it's not the end goal that we're focused on. Remember we talked about masculinity last week. It's pushing forward in spite of the obstacles, and even if you fall, you get back up and you trust God again and again and again until he leads you to where he wants you to go. And for some of the listeners, like that's possible, that if you feel stuck or maybe you don't feel like your mindset's there yet, it's like God gives everybody that same opportunity. Just trust in God and be willing to take that step forward in your calling, in your own destiny, because everybody has it. And we talked about our family members, our cousins, or people we know who don't step up to taking on that mantle of like, you know what? Yeah, let's go on this adventure of life. I'm going to take that risk. I want to step into who God's called me to be. It's like that first level of like starting an MMO game. It's like your first quest. A lot of people just stay in the newbie beginner level. They're too scared to step on that first level. But for those people who do, it's a wonderful journey, and like, you're going to have guys with you, you're going to have trials, but like, don't let fear be the thing that holds you back and being comfortable. Like, how cool is it that we didn't, and no knock on our family or cousins or anybody, just we didn't settle, or that's just not our mindset. Like, we didn't end up like that statistic of being a gang member and then just getting shot and killed randomly on the street.
So
like, true,
though.
We were like, hey, there's something more in our lives. I'm going to trust God, and in faith, I'm going to step out into that and find out who God's called me to be. I feel like everyone's got that road. Everyone's got that special road that honestly might be lonely at times, but we're designed to walk in it. It's like the question is, are you going to take that step forward, or are you not going to? Are you just going to play it safe?
Yeah. Are you going to stay in that first 1 to 2 levels on novice, novice level, and never finish it out? Yeah. I did have a question for you guys that I've struggled with a lot lately, and that was, it was because I question myself a lot, just very analytical. And so how I try and see it is that I'm having these thoughts for a reason. God has put these thoughts in me for a reason, and these desires. But, I have other desires too. Like I want this really nice thing, or I want, this really attractive woman. And I'm just like, well, did God put that like in my head as well? And like, how do I navigate that? And, one way I try to see it, it'd be interesting to have your guys' input on it as well, is that I desire these things that are seemingly material, but is the desire pure in the sense that what I'm reaching out for are things that are beautiful, things that are intimate, things that give me peace, things that make me feel loved, things that allow me to love. And so really, like when I'm reaching out for all these things, like nice things to have, nice clothes, nice shoes, a hot girl, like I feel like these are all just kind of me reaching out for different aspects of God and everything that he embodies, which is peace, which is love, intimacy, and being known. And I know I've struggled with that, because I've had, this idea that maybe like I'm not supposed to be having these thoughts right now. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting on how you guys navigate that.
I think you said it well. And I want to use a word that's paramount to how I'm going to respond to you, and say peace. Yeah. Okay. Our God is not a God of confusion. Yeah. So if we're reaching for these things, you're going to feel almost like you're swimming upstream against the current, because you're not going in line with what God wants. And it's hard, right? All of us have desires of the world. We are so imperfect. Our flesh desires X, Y, and Z, whenever we should just be this way as Jesus was, right? And it's so hard to know what is and isn't from him. But the best thing I've ever heard was, if it causes any kind of confusion, it's not of God, or it's not of our God. Yeah. And it's hard to accept. It's so hard to accept, because you can want, like for example, I had this girlfriend that I was like, it is her. I know it's her. And I went 2 times across the country to go see her. Yeah. I know it's her. But why is it causing me more emotional pain than letting it go? Yeah. Or facing that hard initial barrier to use that energy to say, okay, I relinquish this and I surrender this to you, God. And some things you just have to figure out, and you have to find the ending to them. You have to find how the story plays out. But I think the best thing is humble yourself in front of God. Know that he's of peace and not of confusion. Yeah,
that was very beautifully put, and that was like the exact answer I feel like I was searching for. Because to me, it's just like, it's figuring out when I need to go for things, right, and when I need to step back. Right. And we had this conversation recently about my recent situation, and is very similar to that. And it's just like, do I go all in? And even if I'm a little confused, maybe things will be a little bit clearer down the line once I'm all in. And it's a very interesting way. It's an interesting thing to navigate, and a lot of men, go about it differently. But it's going back to what you said on letting go. Ironically, that's just like what lets things find their way back to you. Right. So yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I've struggled with, is just like, as men, the harder you work, the more you can just like will.
And you should have control of it. Yeah. You seek that control, and you want to will things into existence. Right. But I think what's equally as important is just letting things be and letting things come into your life. And so
we talked about it too, detaching from the outcome. Where I think, talking about your situation, give it to God. Give it to God. Like, go to Poland, see who you want to see, do what you want to do, but give it to God and say, God, I trust in your plan, and I trust that you know more than me and how this will play out, that you will give me exactly what I need. No matter how I get there, you're going to give me the outcome that I need. Yeah. Where maybe it's not about the steps that you take, right? Sure. It's not about the steps you take. We've talked about this before. Hold on to those feelings while you can, because not everyone gets feelings of peace, purpose, passion, whatever it is. Do the steps you're going to take, but ultimately trust that he will work it out and how he is going to. Right. And I think that's just, I think that's ultimate, letting go.
I think what would be a good idea is coming back to this conversation at the end of February and returning to this conversation, see how things go. Because even in the last month, it's been a very difficult time but I can just see how much my being has just changed internally, knowing what I'm capable of feeling emotionally, and knowing I can already just feel myself becoming stronger in the sense of being stronger under uncertainty. And that's the biggest thing, is control. As men, we just want to control everything. But I think what is really paramount to masculinity is being able to center yourself under uncertainty. And yeah, you know, you're going to wobble a little bit, but being able to just stand right back up when these things are happening under uncertainty. And so that's what I've really kind of been working on over the last month. And I've made more progress in this last month in this particular aspect than my entire life. And part of that's because I didn't really dedicate too much time to it. But even if things don't turn out the way I want them to turn out, I'm still going to grow as a person. I'm still going to improve as a person. And when I do those things, you know, the next person that I meet, the next, you know, business venture that I come into, I'm a much more capable, well-equipped person for that. And so I can already feel that, which is nice. So
awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then, you know, I would touch on the semen retention aspect of that as well. Because I don't think this is talked about enough. And I think men are just, not just men, but like as society, it's kind of this shameful taboo thing to discuss. And one of the things you'll learn on semen retention is that you have nowhere to hide when you're doing this. You're going to feel everything that you've been putting off, everything that you didn't deal with in the past, all of the grief that you didn't feel in the past, it's all going to hit you. And you're going to have to face yourself. You're going to have to face that shadow aspect of you. And you're going to have a conversation with yourself and be like, okay, we need to work on this, and we need to develop this aspect, and we need to get better here. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned throughout practicing this throughout my life. And and that's why I encourage, you know, every man to do something like this. Fasting, the semen retention, these will all teach you things at a very fundamental level that not a lot in life will ever be able to teach you.
100%. Definitely something we're going to have to dive into more again in the next podcast. But we got a pretty fun segment, Ricky, that we actually prepared for you, Rob. So
I think before we go to this segment,
right?
We've talked about spirituality, we've talked about physicality, and I want to touch on your mentality. Sure. Because Rob,
that's a huge piece.
I want to say one thing I strongly admire about you is your brand and who you are. You are able to portray your true self, and I've seen you online is very congruent with who you are in person. And that's a very respectable trait, because I don't think a lot of people can actually say that.
I'd say there's very few people in the world that can actually say that. Yeah. Very few people.
Yeah, and I want to know, did you ever have a point in time where you realized you can't live as a watered down version of who you actually are?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this particular topic comes back to everybody at one point in their life was trying to please everybody, you know, whether it was their friends, whether it was a girlfriend. And so in that process, they abandoned themselves. And there's nothing worse than abandoning who you actually are to please a certain demographic of people, to please somebody. And it makes you feel like shit. And it comes to a point where you do it enough in your life where you're just like, I cannot do this anymore. And especially, you know, if you run something online that has a pretty good presence, it would be a very disgusting feeling, both on your end, on the other person's end, to be like, oh, that's not actually how you are. Like, this isn't who you are. And just the dissonance there, that's something I never want to deal with. Like, I want people to see me how I actually am. And sometimes that isn't necessarily a good thing, because I say, you know, a lot of inflammatory things, and I have my own sense of humor, but it is me. And when people see me in real life, when they interact with me in real life, like, that's actually Rob. And so that's I do take pride in that aspect, and I appreciate you guys saying that, but I don't want to be any other person than me. And I think if you really want to get ahead in life, if you're in the sort of the corporate world, I would say you kind of have to play the game. You have to play the game a little bit. But if you want to get ahead in something that you're creating, something that you're doing, the way you're going to stand out is by being yourself. And that's not necessarily going to draw everyone to you. And you don't want to draw everyone to you. You want to draw the right people to you. And so people that find me on the internet, they were meant to find me. And they're in alignment with who I am as a person, and I'm in alignment with who they are. And that's a good community. You don't want everybody liking you. You don't want everybody in on board with what you're doing, because there are going to be people in there that don't necessarily have the best intentions for you. And so the best way to bypass that is to speak your truth and live that out to the best of your ability. It's not going to attract everyone. You're going to have a lot of people that hate you. I in my first 2-3 years of doing my business, I had to develop thick skin, because I had a pretty decent audience and I was getting a lot of messages and a lot of emails that weren't so kind. And just over time you develop thick skin, and that allows you to live your truth even more. And so I try and do my best to practice what I preach in real life.
That's amazing. So, I always say everybody, whether it's a person that you meet or everything you go through, is a blessing or a lesson, because it's either going to be super great and turn out way better than you could have ever imagined, or it's going to really teach you something. I think, and this is more for me personally, as you just said that, like, that's giving me my reminder of not everyone's going to like you, so just go all in with everything that you chase. So, like, especially in our business that me and Eric are trying to build with Salos, now that's giving me, like, I think that's what I needed to hear, Rob. I think that's why I was put on this podcast, so I could literally hear that from you, and thank you for saying that, because I know someone that's watching this is going to get value just like I got value from that. So it was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. I want to know, what does it cost? I think you touched on it a little bit, but what does it cost a person to actually be fully authentically them?
It will cost you a lot of your relationships. If you have relationships up to that point where you make that decision, where you finally make that decision where you're like, I'm not going to live for anybody else but me. It's going to cost you people that you may want in your life, but not necessarily people that you need in your life. And so you're going to have to give that up to be your true self. Not necessarily, abandon them completely. You can love people from a distance, but, not everyone is meant to have access to you. Not everyone is meant to be in your circle. And so that's one of the biggest things you'll develop being your own person, is not just this circle that you've acquired, but this circle that's in alignment with who you are. And again, going back to what you said, Ricky, like, people are going to hate you regardless of what you're doing. You might as well do it anyway.
Absolutely.
And so that's I think that's something that a lot of people that are in the entrepreneurial space need to accept.
Yeah. I think the biggest breath of fresh air is when you're around other people and you're authentically yourself. Like, you say what you want, you act how you want, obviously within reason. Like, you still want to be a good person, but you let your personality and your thoughts go. It's the biggest breath of fresh air for me. Like, not just for you, but for other people. Yeah. Because it allows people to just be like, oh, this guy's not putting on a face. Like, I can just be myself, whether it's good or bad. Like, I'm going to be by myself. And I think that's the most refreshing thing when I meet someone who's truly authentic. They say what's on their mind. They're still good people. They're not turd bags, but they've got good energy, but they're themselves. I'm like, dude, I trust you. Yeah. Like, I like you. Like, I want to be around you. And that's the type of person I want to be. Like, like, I want to just be that breath of fresh air for other people.
It's a scary thing, because in a way, in your mind, it's sort of conceptualized as you're denying this thing that all humans really want, which is acceptance. You want people to love you, and you want to be at peace with everybody. But you have to understand that that's not how it's going to be. Like, it's just not reality. And so, yeah, I mean, just accepting that aspect that, acutely, you're going to have to give up a lot for, in the long term, the right people and the right things. And so that's at least how I try and frame it in my mind. And I don't want those people in my life that are the opposite of what you're saying. I don't want people that like me because I'm putting on a persona for them or what have you. But I want real people in my life. And that's been a big thing for me while I've been in Austin. Is I've met a lot of really genuine people that are good, true, honest, and they're living out their purpose. And I've also met other people that are just like, everything's kind of this networking event, you know, what can I get out of you? What can you get out of me? Like, and I'm not necessarily, there's a time and place for that, I think. But I've definitely run into a lot of those people as well, which is why I don't go to a lot of networking events. It's because I'm not a big networker. I think that the people that want to find me and the people that are meant to find me will find you, regardless of wherever I am. So
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Rob, so we'll go into it since we are running short on time. You mind if we do a new segment presented by Olympus Footwear?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's jump into it. So what we are going to do is I'm going to give you a perspective. It's going to be a one-sentence argument. You can either agree with it or you can refute it, but just defend it in like 1 or 2 sentences. So the first one is, every human suffers an addiction that pulls them further away from God.
Yes. I think that is part of your test here on this earth, is that you're constantly going to be tested by these things, and most people are going to give in to these temptations in life. And I hate to say fail the test, but that's how they're going to go about. That's how they're going to go about their life, and it's unfortunate. And yeah, and that's, I don't know, that's a very difficult thing to tackle. I feel like I'm not theological enough to really give a good answer with that. But other than, you know, there are going to be things in life that test you, and those are going to be addictions, and those things need to be overcome. And you know, whether you're spiritual or not, you should be overcoming those things, you know, regardless of what you believe in. So I don't know if I answered that correctly.
I think it was the perfect
answer.
I
think it was the perfect answer.
Perfect.
You also say you're not theological, and I think you give yourself a bit of discredit in domains where you're not necessarily like as fluent as you are in physics.
Right.
But you have the credibility to speak to this stuff really well, Rob.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then we'll go to the next one is, rubber-soled shoes are one of the worst inventions in the last century.
100%. Yes. Full stop. ruined our health.
Now I'm gonna have to get some grounding shoes. So
yeah,
Olympus Footwear.
Hey.
What's the website called?
I'm the guy. I have 2 websites. One's the groundedathlete.llc.com. That's where I have most of my personal stuff with the education and the physics lectures and videos and all that. Under that is Olympus Earthwear. So that's the actual shoe brand. And so there's 2 websites: groundedathlete.llc.com and there's olympusearthwear.com.
Olympus Earthwear.
Yeah.
Grab your grounded shoes.
Yeah.
Daniel has them on, and Rob has them on.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to the next one then. People are enslaved to fitting in nature, people are enslaved to fitting inside societal norms.
Yes, and we already touched on that for sure. Yeah, everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants everybody to love them. But at the end of the day, it's not the way to live your life. You need to live your truth, and you need to accept the people that are going to hate you for living that truth.
Boom. And then the last one is, nature is better medicine than doctors.
To an extent. Contextual, absolutely. I think nature is the remedy for most of our ailments in life. But, you know, if you have an acute issue, you have sepsis, go to the hospital. Go see a doctor. But I think leading up to the point where we get really sick in life, a lot of just living in alignment with nature will take care of a lot of that. Are you getting your grounding in? Are you getting your natural light in? Are you putting good food in your body? Are you training your body? That'll take care of 99% of your problems. Obviously, there's some, you know, genetic factors in there as well, you know, acute issues that need addressing. And it's just context dependent. They both have their uses, and they're both very, very effective. So both.
Amazing. And then we're going to go to our last and final segment presented by olympusearthwear.com, which is going to be this or that. I'm going to give you 2 options, and you let me know which one.
One word answers only.
One word answers only, but if you want to explain it, if they get interesting, we'll jump into that. So the first one is shoes or no shoes?
No shoes.
Then we have chaos or order?
Chaos. I think through chaos is how we grow. By being knocked out of equilibrium, that's how we grow. We need this restoring force to bring us back to equilibrium. And chaos, as a physical principle, throughout our entire life is what allows us to grow. It allows us to restore ourselves, to reinvent ourselves, to grow as people. We need the chaos. And so I would rather live in a chaotic environment in this reality and be very, very wise and very, very grown and improved from that than living a perfect life and nothing ever happening. And that's different, than the kingdom of heaven, obviously. But I think here on this earth, chaos will do you well.
Beautiful. Amazing. Yeah. Science or God?
Both.
If you had to pick one.
God leads to science.
Amazing. Companionship or solitude?
Oh. This can be context dependent, right?
No.
No context. Then companionship. Humans are meant to be in contact with other human beings, and I've learned this the hard way throughout the last 5 years by being in solitude. It takes a huge toll on your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. So companionship, absolutely.
Government control or anarchy? This one can be context dependent, though.
Somebody give me their answer first. I need something to run on.
I would say anarchy.
I'll say the right government control.
See, I would.
I'm with Daniel.
I would say the right government control, but say we had this government versus anarchy, I'd go anarchy.
If it was a terrible government where they're like killing their own citizens and like not doing right by them, 100% anarchy. Like we'll figure the rest out ourselves. But
the only thing I can say is that with the current state of things, anarchy.
I agree. Yes,
that's what I would say as well.
Christian anarchists.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say as well. All right, sprints or weightlifting?
Oh, that's tough.
Oh, we stressed them out.
That's tough. Gosh, I want to say sprints, but I'm going to say weightlifting.
Ooh.
I think weightlifting will benefit far more people and be far more sustainable for people than sprinting ever will be. As much as I like sprinting, as numerous as the benefits of sprinting are, weightlifting, you need to be you need to be a strong human being, and a lot of that can be accomplished in the weight room. So.
Amazing. All right, we have a few more. American women or foreign women?
Foreign women, any day of the week. Mm-hmm.
Easy.
Especially Eastern European women.
Perfect. All right, then we have gay son or thought daughter?
Gay son. I think men can deviate from their path much more easily. I think in life they have much more agency when it comes to these things, and it's hard to answer this with not sounding like the most sexist person in the world. But I think with the gay son, things can always change, and I think there's much more capacity in a gay son than a thought daughter.
All right, and then the last one that we have is Hitler or Trump.
That's tough. And the fact that it's tough is just like it says a lot.
That's crazy.
Oh man, you could plead the fifth too.
You could plead the fifth.
I plead the fifth.
I'll plead the fifth with this
yeah,
one.
But I know my
Yeah,
answer.
me too.
We're pleading the fifth there.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
It's funny because
Option C.
all of us pleading the fifth, like we know.
Yeah, we know what it is. And I just wanted to add while we wrap this up here, Daniel and I went on this little journey where we felt what it felt like to be grounded, and grounding does work. It literally takes that electrical charge. It literally feels like it takes the weight of the world off of your shoulders and gives it back to where it should be. Okay, and I think the last thing I want to add is for anyone that wants to check you out, plug yourself one more time, because you're doing great things and what you're doing works and it changes people's lives.
Thank you guys. That's why I keep doing it, is because of all the messages I get that are like, this just changed my life. This helped me in a very fundamental way. And you can, if you Google search Olympus Earthwear, if you Google search The Grounded Athlete, it'll be the first thing that pops up. On Instagram, it's The Grounded Athlete. I have 3 Instagrams, but The Grounded Athlete and Olympus Earthwear are the business pages. And then if you like Twitter too, that's Earth Papito. I wouldn't recommend looking me up there. But,
I would recommend looking him up there. If you want to find out who Rob is, that'll give you a real quick glimpse into who he is. But thank you guys for tuning into this episode. And more than anything, thank you, Rob, for sharing your story today.
Thank you guys for having me. Super fun.
Bless, man.
Yeah.